It's, different platform.
So, Chair, we do have at least 4.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
then
we're going to
then
establish
now,
our quorum.
What about at the for the planning commission meeting itself? Are we going to be down to 4?
I don't, Steve, would you happen to know that?
I heard from Commissioner Bodner and Commissioner Merrick. Commissioner Bodner needed to recuse herself from the study session. She sounds like she would join later. And Commissioner Merrick was, unfortunately, it sounded like he's going to be late, but it sounded like he would also be able to join at 7. That's a little bit questionable right now, but yeah.
Okay, that's good because I think per the handbook, to take an action, you're going to need a majority of the whole body. So if you had 4, you would. So okay, just doing some housekeeping.
Thank
Okay.
you. Somebody has their hand raised, Steve.
I do see that, but I mean,
I don't know how to put my name in. Sorry. There didn't seem to be anywhere to add my name, but that G is me.
Yeah, it's okay for now. We will,
Okay.
We'll start our meeting, and then when we open up public comment, we'll call on you, and you can just announce yourself.
Okay.
Okay. So I did start the recording. If you want to start the meeting, Chair Doran, and we can officially establish quorum.
Sure. Let's open the study session for Thursday night, March 17th, 2022, 6 o'clock study session. And excuse me, Steve, if you'd like to establish a quorum and then we can start. Excuse me.
Commissioner Ahi?
Here.
Commissioner Steinle?
Here.
Vice Chair Menzinger?
She's mute, but she's here.
Yep, that's her. Her mouth is talking. Chair Doran?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Bodner? She is absent. And Commissioner Merrick? I do not see him, and he's absent. And I don't know if Commissioner Roche. And I did not hear from him, so he is not here either.
Okay. All right. Well, let's open first. First, what we do is we open the meeting with public comments that for items that are not on the agenda for tonight, so they don't get response back. It's something that a member of the public might want to talk about that's not actionable for tonight. So if there's anybody on the line who has a public comment for an item not on the agenda, could you raise your hand and let our interim planning services director know, and he will unmute you? Steve, do you see anybody? This is a different format. We have to keep switching pages.
Yeah, I don't see that. And if anybody is called in, don't see anybody else that's called in that's muted. So
all right, great. Well, taking that into consideration, we'll close the public comment and we'll go to what our topic is for the 6 o'clock study session. It is PPR 21-001 Denardi Wang Homes for the property at 996 Lorraine Avenue. And this is a preliminary project feedback from the Planning Commission for a 3-story mixed-use building with 1,195 square feet of retail on the first floor and 12 residential units at the second and third story. It includes 2 moderate income restricted units and 1 level of at-grade parking. And for purposes of the public tonight, the Planning Commission just offers feedback. The applicant has a right to get feedback from us and then come back to us at later dates before they submit their formal application. So I will ask the applicant if they'd like to present. And is the applicant on the line and would like to present?
Yes, I'm here, but I believe staff might have had a brief outline first.
Yeah,
Staff
thank you,
report?
Jeff.
Yes, staff report.
Sorry,
I apologize. Staff report first.
sorry. Thanks, Chair. I was just going to quickly give the commission an overview of what we received. It's pretty much similar to what you have, what you are seeing in the staff report, and all the attachments. And then I would hand over the portion of this to the applicant and his architect to present the project and receive feedback. Thank you for this evening. Good evening, Commission. This is 996 Lorraine. It's the preliminary planning application study session. We have the applicant team and the architect team here with us. With the staff members, it's me, a consulting senior planner. My name is Radha Hayagreev, and there's Steve, who's our planning manager, and the rest of we have a quorum with the commissioners. The location of the project. The project, as you see, these are Google Street View images. It's sitting on a 8,898 square feet or close to 0.2 acres of a parcel at the corner of Miramonte Avenue and Lorraine Avenue. It currently has a single-story structure with the commercial use. The project is designated neighborhood commercial, and also the overlay of the project sits in the Loyola Corner specific plan area, as you can see in the map, and the portion that's highlighted in red is the subject site in consideration today for discussion. The applicant has proposed. The applicant has proposed a mixed use, a 3 feet tall, for a three-story tall, 41 feet in height, mixed use building. The first floor commercial use has a proposed retail uh, uh, square footage of 1,195 square feet. The rest of the first floor is proposed to be at grade parking. The second and third floors are identical. They have 6 units each, 4 2-bedrooms and 2 1-baths, as seen in the plans on this slide. The applicant has chosen to dedicate 2 units or the required 15% to below market rate, and they have dedicated both of them to moderate level income housing. This is just a brief overview, and with this, I hand over the discussion to, I believe Albert wanted to speak first. He is the project sponsor, and then it will be followed by the architect, Jeff. Albert, are you on this call?
Yes, thank you, Radha. And then your Planning Commission commissioners and city staff and members of their community. Just want to address very quickly the Planning Commission. So on our First Street project, I think you guys remember it recently came through, went to City Council. It was our mistake, actually. Wanted to just admit that we didn't show during City Council the work that we did in trying to address your comments. And we felt that we wanted to make sure that you guys know that we do take your comments very seriously, and we do appreciate it. And we did iterate several items on them, like the balconies, the mass and bulking, etc. Just want to make that very clear that we do appreciate you guys, and we do hear and listen to it. We went to City Council, and I think we did provide a write-up for it, a one-pager, but I don't think that got across the message that we actually took the time to thoroughly investigate that. And then just wanted to make that known, and thank you guys again. So everything tonight, we're going to be listening very carefully, and we will be addressing each of those items. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to our project architect, Mr. Jeff Potts from SDG. Thank you.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen and hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very
Yes.
much. Again, Jeff Potts, SDG Architects. I did want to reiterate what Albert said. We do appreciate the time in these work study sessions and take your comments seriously. I also wanted to let any neighbors who are attending this meeting that also attended the neighborhood meeting know that we take their comments into serious consideration as well, and they will be seeing the same package that we showed them. So I don't want there to be any expectation that we had made changes between the neighborhood meeting and this meeting. They were both scheduled based on the same package. So I wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody, and I'm sure we'll perhaps get some of the same comments. As Rada mentioned, the project site is on the corner of Lorraine and Miramonte in the Loyola Corners area. It's approximately 8,900 square feet or 0.2 acres with an existing liquor store of approximately 3,000 square feet on the site currently. The site plan is laid out. We used Miramonte as the front of the site, although it is slightly wider than the Lorraine frontage. The access to both the retail and the residential would be taking place primarily from Miramonte, so we used that as the frontage of the site. The access to the parking would be off of Lorraine Avenue. Parking, again, is partially under the building and partially outside the footprint of the building, but is all at surface and behind the building from the front. As this project moves forward, this corner would be enhanced from a sidewalk, bulb out parking standpoint based on the specific plan. The setbacks that we used were, zero basically at Miramonte along the sidewalk with the retail and residential exiting directly to the sidewalk. Zero along Lorraine, although there's a buffer of landscape and the sidewalk to the access there, a 20-foot rear setback. And this setback varies from about 1.5 feet to 3 feet, although it's zero in the code based on the Miramonte frontage. There will be a landscape buffer along this property line to the rear, which is our only adjacent residential zoning, directly adjacent. There is a residence here that faces the other way, and this property here is actually zoned the same commercial as our property. 16 total parking spaces, 7 of which are covered. There's still some discussion on that. That was based on the specific plan stating 1 space per unit and 4 spaces for the retail. I know there's some various different calculations for that, and we'll be diving into that further as well. The first floor, as mentioned, is about 1,200 square foot of retail facing out to Miramonte with a recessed entry at the retail space and also a recessed entry to the exit stair tower. The balance of that space would be the residential lobby with the mailroom and the elevator for the residential and the secondary stair access, along with a trash enclosure underneath the building at the backside. The second and third floors are the same at this moment. There is 2 one-bedroom units of about 600 square feet on each floor and 4 two-bedroom units of approximately 950 square feet on each floor. The unit floor plans are articulated along both the rear side and the frontage. And it's about a total of about 10,000 square feet of living space. And again, the third floor is similar. Architecturally, we were looking for a more modern interpretation of a traditional residential forms. So we've got the sloped roofs, both sloping back at the mansard and then the gabled roofs, along with some single pitch shed roofs. And you can see the gables at the side and the front along there. The retail space provides a base to the building and is a taller space based on city standards for retail spaces. So that's a 13-foot ceiling plate with the ability to drop a 12-foot ceiling into that space. It's 41 feet to the ridge, 40 feet to the bulk of the roof, aside from the articulated features, with a mix of materials with a stone base, some stucco siding with scoring details, horizontal wood siding in the manner of a trespa or something of that nature, and horizontal metal balcony railings with sort of a green feature here at the corner. You can see the sides and rears as well as the front there with the articulation along the rear elevation, and at the visible corner at Lorraine, and not so visible corner at the other side on the south elevation. Again, from a material standpoint, a variety of materials: stone, stucco, some metal detailing and railing trim to match the windows, along with a wood siding feature in both vertical and horizontal elements. And with that, I think I'll try not to take up too much of your discussion time, and we'll leave that there and look forward to your comments.
Thank
Thank
you for your presentation. I'm going to bring this back to the commissioners to see if they have any questions of the applicant. So who would like to start?
Well, I don't mind starting, but I have some questions of staff.
That go right ahead. Questions of staff or the applicant?
Okay. If the entrance is on Miramonte, isn't the address going to be on Miramonte instead of Lorraine?
I would have to check with the building division. Typically, addressing happens at that point. But I can revert to you, sir.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
I mean,
heard, actually, Eric, I've heard lately that the fire department is starting to make those determinations. So it would be great if staff could check that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yet another
I can-
factor that is not within city control.
Yeah.
Steve,
Sorry.
I can
Sorry, Eric.
answer that. So it would be addressed by the building division, and typically it's where the main entrance of the building is. So
Mhm.
we might be calling this 996 Lorraine because that's the current address, but then it would change in the future when they come forward to the building permit stage, and they'd be readdressed. So
So I guess the question
That's
is it going to continue to be familiar to us as Lorraine, or is it going to shift to Miramonte while it's still in front of us? Or do you have an idea?
we can just keep it 996 Lorraine to keep it simple and consistent. But yeah, in the future, the address would be changing.
Yeah, okay. Where's the entrance? And this, I don't know if this is for Jeff or for staff, but where's the entrance to the on-grade parking? That wasn't entirely clear from the pictures that we saw.
Yeah, I can answer that if you can still hear me. The entrance to the on-grade parking is off of Lorraine. It's you can see it a little bit here in this image, and then up here in this image, you can see that fuller view of the Lorraine side, the underground, the at grade, but below the building parking would be accessed from Lorraine.
Okay. But it's too early to talk about landscaping. This one is, I think, back to staff. In looking at the parking, you referred to chapter 14.40, and I'm wondering why you didn't look at chapter 14.42.
It's both. It's 14.40.010 and 14.42.010.
But they're in conflict. The way I calculate it, the parking requirement for these commercial space will be 49 spaces under 14.42, 14.42 controls over 14.40. And I'm referring here to specifically the 14.42.070, I'm sorry, 14.42.050. It's one space for each 300 square feet of gross floor area. And gross floor area is defined in section 14.02.070. And it's basically everything under the roof, everything within the walls and under the roof, which would be, I believe, the 14,000 square feet. And that would calculate out to 49 spaces.
If I could answer that, I mean, the parking for the retail is calculated on the square footage of the retail.
Yeah.
And then separately, the parking of the residential is calculated on the number of units or square footage or whatever the metric is of the residential, and then those are combined. So the retail parking would be everything inside of the walls and under the roof that is retail space, which is the approximately, let's call it 2,000 square feet for lack of a tighter number.
But that's not how I read it. So I think this is something that needs to get worked out before this comes back to us. I'm not expecting an answer tonight, but I'm raising the question. Okay. So the relationship between 14.42 and 14.40 is going to have to be clarified because they're very, very different from each other. And 14.42.010 says explicitly that if there's a conflict between them, 14.42 controls. I'm not necessarily expecting an answer, but that is a question that will come back up the next time this comes, and we will need to get that worked out. This came up in the 999 Fremont issue as well. The specific plan has parking requirements that are very, very different from, and it's the gross floor area, if you look at it, is the entire building under the roof, not just the retail area, which is why I'm raising this question. Okay, so this is going to have to get worked out.
Yeah, and to answer that, it's the parking ratios are for the specific uses in the building. So as the architect was, I think, explaining correctly, is that the portion of the building that's retail, we would apply, I believe it's the one space per 300 gross floor area, and then the portion of the building that's residential, it would fall under the residential standards, and in this case with the affordable units provided and density bonus, they would take benefit of state law, which prescribes how much parking is required. So that's how that would.
No argument with what they are asking for in the density bonus law. That's fine. My concern, however, is that I do not think that's what the law says, and so I'm raising this issue now so that it can be addressed, because I think that what you've said is incorrect. I understand why you're saying it, but I think it's incorrect. So that's just, I'm raising that point. Okay, because it's a study session. This isn't a decision moment, but that is an issue that's going to come up. So that's going to have to get resolved one way or the other. Okay, just so you know. Let me see. There was something else. No, I think that as far as questions are concerned, that's all I have for right now. Shelley, thank you. If she's there.
Okay,
Shelley, are you
great.
there?
Yeah, no, yes.
I didn't see you.
Sorry. Any of the other commissioners have questions for staff?
I have a
Susan?
question for the developer, but not for staff.
Oh, go ahead. I think we could just open it up to both right
Okay.
now. Not so far.
You mentioned that you'd had a community meeting and gotten some feedback, but that feedback wasn't incorporated in what you've shown us because it's the same package. Can you share with us what might be some of the changes you might make based on the neighborhood feedback?
Let's see. I'm trying to go back and forth to the different screens here. I'm sorry. We've just begun diving into the various components of the building, and we're basically not spending a lot of time on the redesign until we had the full comments from both the neighborhood as well as the Planning Commission. Certainly, we heard a lot of comments about height and parking and traffic, and we'll be working to address all of those comments in the best manner possible.
Okay. And you're working with as you do that, you're also responding to the specific plan for Loyola Corners, which kind of has a different feel to it than the rest of the city.
Yes, that's our intent.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Mayrus, any questions or comments?
I just wanted to confirm with staff that this project would need to follow the SB 330 objective design standards. Is that true?
That would be correct.
Okay, thank you. Just checking.
Okay. Let's see. So, to the applicant, we received many, many letters regarding this project. So now I do understand that you've held your community meetings, but we have received many letters in opposition to these comments and hope that you take that feedback seriously as you look at, redesigning based on our comments this evening. So being that said, Steve, I don't know if you see on your screen members of the public who wish to speak on this tonight.
We will, as part of this process, we will recommend that you open up for public comment.
Yep. I just want to be sure you.
Yeah.
All right. So
yep.
if we don't have any more questions for staff or the applicant right now, we would like to open it up for public comment. Just so the public knows, tonight's a study session for people to bring their ideas to the developer, their concerns to the developer and to the commission. And we're not going to be making any decisions tonight, but we will be trying to give the developer guidance based on, our opinions and the opinions relative and the relative municipal code sections, and then the neighbors' comments also. So no decisions tonight. We will have the applicant come back, with specific answers to our questions. So on that note, I'll open up the public hearing, and Steve, our interim planning services director, he has the controls for that.
Yes, so bear with me because it's a different system here. So if you're a member of the public and you would like to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature, and I'll gladly call on you. And I'm going to try to use my gallery feature. And
if you could also state your name, if we don't see your name, if you could state your name for the record, we'd really appreciate it. And if you do have a camera, if you'd like to turn your camera on, that would be great also. Not necessary, but it would be helpful.
Okay.
Chair, I have hi. I understand that the chapter has not been disabled, so we need to disable that.
I have tried, and this is not the same software that we have been using in the past, so it doesn't have the same control. I have selected a feature that says only hosts and moderators to chat, so I don't know what else is going on.
Okay.
Jolie, just so you know, I haven't seen anything in the chat. Are you seeing something different?
No, I just got a text from someone saying that they thought it was live. So
okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
And we're not recording the chat, so we're not looking at the chat room. Any comments made in the chat room is not going to be reviewed as part of the public record.
Great.
But I think I've disabled it. I don't see anything showing up there myself. So okay.
I think I can suggest that we ask people not to do it because it's very distracting for us if it pops up.
Yeah, and I think I've turned it off, but
yeah, I just got a text saying now it's been disabled. So just thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Great.
Okay, I'll first start out with it just this person, it says guest, and I've asked them to unmute. They have their hand raised and they're just labeled as guest.
Okay, I guess that's me with the
There you
G.
go. Can you please state your name? That'd be helpful.
Margaret Gosens.
Okay, thank you, Margaret.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
You're on the mic now. You're on live.
Yes. So a lot of neighbors have talked to me about this building. Our concern is that it's how long has it been sitting there? 5 years? Can anybody answer that?
I'm not sure. Anybody in planning?
Pardon?
I'm not sure how long it's been sitting empty.
Okay. Why we're concerned is that for 3 years, the plywood and the sheetrock were exposed to the weather. There weren't any windows and doors in at that time, and there was no sheathing on the building. And I saw black mold growing from the edges of the sheetrock, and was very concerned about it. And so now it's been about 5 years since they have started this building. And has anybody been by there recently, like the last month?
This is an opportunity for you to just provide a comment, and
Okay,
we're not
all
really
right.
answering
That's
questions.
fine. I hear you.
But I just,
I think you
to
have
be
the wrong
clear,
building.
yeah, the building the building you're referring to is 1540 Miramonte, I believe, and it's a different building.
I'm talking about 996 Lorraine. Anyway,
it's not that same building, but go ahead.
I thought we were talking about 996 Lorraine.
Yes, we are. But
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
we are.
so it's been exposed to the elements for, I'd say, at least 5 years. I live right there, and I go by it maybe 3 times a week. And we've been watching it grow and not grow, or progress and go backwards. It did not have windows and doors for at least 3 years. And only in the last year or 2, they put on some sheathing. When they put it on, the wind blew it all off, and they didn't put it on correctly in the first place. There were big gaps in it. And so the mold continued to grow. And recently they've put up little pieces of sheathing to cover the mold, it seems like, because you can't see the mold anymore. It's usually on the edges, the black mold. And I didn't know if this building has passed code or what's going on here. I tried to send a letter and it wasn't able to get through. It got stuck, so I will try again tomorrow to send it in and send in some pictures. Because if nobody's been there, then you really don't know what a mess it is. And would you like this in your as part of your house, how your house is being built improperly and not according to code?
Just to clarify, tonight's session is a study session for a new project that's going to be constructed at 996 Lorraine, not an existing building. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, why were we talking about 996 Lorraine in the beginning?
We are. This is 996 Lorraine study session for a new building planning to be built, and the information that was published on the city's website with the renderings and the plans for the new building. And we're trying to help the applicant and owner study the property so they can bring it back to us for approval. So there seems to be a little confusion relative to the property that you're bringing up.
Okay, so my time is up. I'll listen to the rest. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your comment, though. And Steve, I guess we'll try and figure out what that property is and see what will happen with those comments.
Sure. The next person I see with a raised hand is Nancy. Nancy, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Nancy, are you there? There you go.
I'm here. Yeah,
Okay, there.
got it. Okay.
We'll have you on a
Okay.
2-minute timer.
Okay, it's 2 minutes. Okay. So I feel that preserving our brand should be our number one agenda. It's why people come and live here. It's beautiful. And for any future building, it needs to apply. So I'm opposed to this building with its current monolithic bulk and mass. It doesn't fit the Loyola Corners brand in any way. The building is all about maximizing the profits for the developer, and I understand that's his job, but it's a very tiny lot. It's less than 1/4 of an acre. This is a huge project to put on there. So I feel that the developer has completely disregarded the codes of the Loyola Corners specific plan. They know about them. The staff spelled it out in beautiful print, and I really appreciated that. It showed what the required design elements are on page 5 of the agenda. The elements like informal architecture, small scale building elements, simple sloping roofs with distinct ridges, rustic natural materials, and a 30-foot height limit with 2 stories. I do understand about density bonuses, but basically, other than that, none of those have been met. It feels like he's going to use the new state laws to discount all the setbacks and ask for density bonuses for the height, concessions for the setbacks, all with complete disregard on the impact of the surrounding 1-story residential homes. I feel terrible for those people. I can't even imagine what they must be thinking. It looks like their plan is to ask for everything and hope they get something. But what they aren't doing is being respectful to our time, the staff's time, the commission's time, the residents' time. So now we have to come back and correct their work. If they could have done it right the first time, they could have come to us with a beautiful small building that fits the qualifications of the specific plan and 2 stories. We would have welcomed it because we know we need to meet our RHNA numbers for the state and increase housing. But this is not the way. I propose that we reject the building and ask the developer to come back with an all residential building, no retail on the bottom. And that's my request, and no taller than 2 stories with the proper setbacks. We believe the lot was once zoned R1 because 50 years ago, there was a small house on that property before it was allowed to change into a liquor store. So now we would like to see it go back to that and let the people of Lorraine have a nice little neighborhood and not have to worry about this giant monolithic structure in their backyard. Okay, I think it stopped. So, thank you.
And yes, and thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry,
Steve,
my screen. Yeah, it's not easy.
I know. Don't worry. Don't worry.
This is not the same platform. Okay. Next I have, it's just 1508 is the name on the screen that I see. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Mukesh. I live on 1508 Carab Lane, which is just like 2 houses down the line. And I completely agree with what Nancy mentioned. This particular housing does not basically will break the structure what we have and the peacefulness we have. I don't even know what was the planning done or any study was done to see the traffic level which will be increased. This building is right in front of the post office. The congestion is already built in there, and having 3-story in this particular area is definitely not going to help anyone here, and it will definitely reduce the housing value what we have here. And why anybody wants to come to Los Altos is the structure we are maintaining, the history we are keeping, but by allowing this type of development will destroy that. And I totally oppose the idea of building this structure. Maybe 2-story, what Nancy was saying, may be feasible, but not 3-story by any means.
Great. Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you. The next person I have is Yana Ivy or Ivy.
Hi,
Looks like
can
they
you
just
hear me?
dropped. Yeah.
Did I drop?
We hear you now.
Yeah,
Okay.
we hear you.
Okay. My name is actually Mark Ivy. I'm using my wife's computer, so that's why it shows up as Yana. I live across the street from this project at 999 Lorraine, and we're very concerned about the height. This would be the only three-story building in this whole area, as far as I know. I can't think of another three-story building if you don't count the clock tower. And it just seems like a really odd spot to put the first three-story building in this area. It's surrounded by houses. It has houses directly to the south and west of it. It has houses on the other side of Lorraine. It has a house on the other side of Miramonte. And so if we're going to put three-story buildings in Loyola Corners, this seems like an odd spot to start. I asked this at the previous meeting. I would like to see a shadow study done. We're pretty sure that this building at 41 feet tall would cast shadows onto our house throughout the winter months. I also agree with the previous commenter who mentioned the bulk of the design. You can tell that they're just maximizing the volume. It fills the entire cube. And that's not really what the other buildings in the area do. If you look at many of the other two-story buildings, the second story is smaller than the first story. So I think this needs to go back to the drawing board and come back with a smaller plan that fits much better into our community. I wonder if there's perhaps a reason for the extra retail. Could that be a way to shrink this project? I don't know that we need more retail in this area. I think there's some empty retail already. So yeah, that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Steve, more comments, please?
I see another hand, MJ. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I did submit a written comment as well, but I wanted to emphasize that this building looks like something that could take place in El Camino or one of the transit districts, but we are not a transit district. The whole point of Loyola Corners and the specific plan was that there's a lot of history in this area, and there's a large set of small one-story homes are all R1 surrounding this. And part of the reason that the Loyola Corner specific plan has setbacks and tries to do stepped back upper stories and keeps the scale small is that this is the feel of this whole district. And those actually are requirements. They're in the municipal code. And to come up with a project that violates all of those, it is not meant for a non-transit district like we are. We are a neighborhood, and I don't understand how the two below market rate units would justify violating all of the other regulations in this area. It just does not add anything to the neighborhood. Even if you're adding some extra housing, which we need and we want, it could be in a smaller scale with all of the proper vertical and horizontal articulations, and it can be done differently. And I really urge you to urge the developer and the developer, if you're listening, please, we'd like to work with you to make something we would be proud of, that people would want to buy. Because if we start down this road of monolithic buildings, no one's going to want to buy into the area anymore.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay.
We can, maybe there's, give me one sec. I do see another one. Alice Shayu's phone. You can unmute yourself, Alice.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that person. Alice, are you there? I feel like a radio show here. Hello, caller, are you there? Alice, if you're okay, not hearing from Alice, and Steve, not seeing anybody else's hands up. I will.
There are some phone-in callers.
Okay. Do you want to unmute? You want to unmute them and see if they speak up?
I'm trying my best right now.
Oh, yeah,
Going
sorry,
down
I'm
the
not,
list.
no pressure.
Just so if you're on the phone, I'm going to be unmuting you. So just to let you know. So I've unmuted all the phone callers. Does anybody on the phone have a public comment for this item?
You can, if you have a public comment, please speak up. And if you're talking over somebody else, we'll just choose one.
I now
Anybody?
see a
Here we
couple of
go.
hands raised. So
Okay.
Is it my turn?
Yes, Alice, we see
Oh,
you now.
sorry.
Go right ahead. No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I also sent an email before the meeting. We live here ever since 1993, and we chose to live this area is because of its village characteristics, the scenic view, and we would like to cooperate and be friendly with the developer, but just like all the other comments, it has to fit into the neighborhood. Our lot is 1448, 3-story building. Perhaps they can still see our living room if we, pull our blind. So, and also parking and St. Francis during rush hour, the traffic is terrible. For parties, the property line is very close to the public area. There are times people park very close to my building because there aren't enough parking even right now. I hope the parking and the safety at night. If too many cars park so close to the property line, you cannot see. So parking and to preserve the character will be highly appreciated. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alice. Anybody else who was on the phone, unmute yourself, who would like to speak?
I think I went ahead and muted them because we didn't hear from them. But I do see
Okay.
one more hand, Debbie. Debbie, you can go ahead.
Working on it. There we go. Okay. Hello. I am also opposed to this building as presented to us. I feel that I don't want to take up too much of your time. It does not fit the community. It's too tall for the homes nearby. If you're going to put 2 and 3 bedroom unit, I think it had 2 bedroom units in it. It looks like it's inviting children. It's not a good location because there's no place for kids to play. Busy street. There's so many areas that need improvement for this. And also, if we're going to be offering all of these incentives or accommodations, then there should be many, 50% or more low income or very low, not just too moderate. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I agree with all of your callers. We do want housing in this community, but this building doesn't do it. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not see any more hands raised at this point.
Great. So at that, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to
Sorry, as I said that, I just saw one additional one. So
Okay.
again, it'd be really helpful at this time if you do have a comment to raise your hand so we can make sure we get all the comments and we don't cut anybody off. But this one person I have, it's SKKAMIL.
Hi, my name is Camille, and I live in the corner of that street. And I just wonder if a developer buy a property in that street and decide to build their multifamily housing, and I have a small house, can I actually demolish this house and build unit instead? If he allowed to do it, why don't all the other people on that street will be able to do so? And then everything will be ugly and uncomfortable for everybody. So that's my opinion on this building. It may be nice in a different location, but it doesn't fit this location where it's supposed or they want to build it in. Now, I have a question about commercial. Are all the street around it a lot commercial? That's just a thought. Thank you for your patience. I actually oppose that structure.
Well, thank you for your comments, Camille. We appreciate them. Seeing anybody else, Steve, before I close it?
I do not see any of their hands raised.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment on this project and bring it back to the planning commissioners for their input to the applicant and the architect. And I'm going to ask amongst the commissioners who'd like to speak up first. Eric, I see you unmuted yourself, so.
No, I stupidly left it unmuted, so.
Okay.
But
Mayrus, it looks
actually,
like
I'd like to
Mayrus-
hear from Mayrus first,
Sure.
because he and
Great.
then I'll be happy to go after him.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Also, I think Richard joined the call if that wasn't announced. Just wanted to say that. So I have a few comments. If we take the objective standards out of the equation, there's still aspects of the projects that aren't taking into account the Loyola Corners specific plan and specifically the 2017 amendment. So creating a functional commercial use facility, maintaining pedestrian scale of the neighborhood, human scale building elements, simple sloping roof forms, streetscape elements. I would say all those things are either not being addressed at all or they're somewhat being addressed. Then when you add the objective design standards, which we just passed, I think many of those things are not being addressed. The upper story step backs on the third level aren't done. The articulation I think is done for horizontally and vertically, but it's not really what we typically have in our objective standards. The facades adjacent to the R1 district, you have 6 balconies and sliding glass doors facing the R1, which we specifically don't allow. The facade design, it says residential facades shall incorporate at least one element that signals habitation, and the 2 side elevations don't have anything that incorporates that. The building also doesn't really take into account site context. So the corner of the building, which is, corner of Lorraine and Miramonte, I think would be a much better place for a retail space because of pedestrians walking by, cars driving by, but instead you have the most private spaces, the lobby, the elevator, the stair tower on that corner. And then the retail and residential entrance are just kind of placed along the facade. They're not designed with the retail customer in mind or the resident in mind. The elevator tower extends higher than the rest of the building for no real reason. 9 of the parking spaces are completely uncovered with no awning or covering of any sort, which isn't typical. There's no floor plans, which is fine, I guess, for this stage, but it's not possible for us to kind of reorient the plans to see if maybe balconies can face the sides instead of the R1. So yeah, I think this needs a lot of work, and it's kind of a shame because I would say that the Planning Commission is very pro housing. So, but when we see a project like this and it's not following the CN guidelines, the Loyola Corner specific plan, the objective standards, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And it kind of just feels like a waste of our time. So I really think you should follow what we have in place and what we've spent a lot of time putting together. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayrus. Eric?
Amen, Brother Merus. I said the last time a project came up like this, that was the 95 First Street project. It's our law. We follow it. You follow it. We have objective standards. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and this simply isn't complying with them. And I'm saying this to the staff as well as to the applicant. If these things aren't ready, don't bring them to us, please. It wastes everybody's time. It's a very simple process. We have the standards. They have their proposal. Put them side by side and compare them. If what they are proposing doesn't match the standards, they have to change it before it comes to us. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. We have new rules. There's a new sheriff in town. We're not doing things the way we did through 2021. And this is the second time this has come to us this way, okay? To add to what Meru said about the things that don't match, the materials don't match the materials that we provide for. The parking issue is going to have to be dealt with, and I also agree the entrances are basically dull. They need a lot of work. I think that the colors that are there, and I understand that they're largely representationally rather than the actual colors that are planned, but I find them rather garish. I think that those need to be worked on. I think we would like a much more unified color palette, which this is not. And the retail space strikes me as extremely small. If it's 1,200 square feet, if you're going to have a bathroom for the employees, you're going to have a break room or some kind of room in the back, you're going to have less than 1,000 square feet of retail space. I'm not sure what kind of retail operation anybody has in mind, but again, I think that Marissa's idea of moving the retail perhaps to the other side would be a good thing in the circumstances and certainly should be considered. I'm generally in favor of mixed use. I think I keep saying I'd like to see more of it. So I'm happy to see a mixed use proposal, but I'm not sure that this is a particularly useful mixed use design. So I'd like to have that thought about some more as well. It also occurs to me that given the height, and this is one of the things that's not in our objective standards, you have a 13-foot plate height for the ground floor and 10 feet for the second and third floors. And our objective standards say that for the ground floor, it's the height of the upper stories plus at least 12 inches. So we could reduce the height of this very simply by following that. If we continue keep the 10-foot plate heights for the second and third floors, the first floor could be 11 or perhaps 12 feet. We could reduce the height somewhat. And I agree also about the elevator tower. There's no reason to have it sticking way up over the roof line. So those are some of the things that I noticed, but I particularly would like to make sure that when we get projects to, even at this stage coming before us, that they have made an attempt to match our standards. I would mention the project that was proposed on 4th Street. I was very impressed by that because in a similar situation, the applicant had a very finished plan that he had very carefully matched to our standards, and he was very explicit about how he did that. So it can be done. It requires some more work on the front end, but we'll have a much easier time, as Meru said, giving any advice other than complaining, and having something that we can actually work with. So we're here to help, but we can't help people who don't come prepared. So a word to the wise, that would include applicants and the staff, in my view. Thank you.
All right, Eric, thanks for your comments. Commissioner Menzinger? And yes.
Yeah, I will echo what has already been said. I'm not going to repeat it all, but I would urge the developer and the architect to pay specific attention to the objective standards, the specific plan for Loyola, which I agree with Mayrus, I think was not considered in this design, and the site context. It is a big building with no setbacks.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Commissioner Menzinger. And is Commissioner Roche on, and would he like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you very much. I've got a new computer in. Things aren't working with
No worries.
So first three commissioners were very nice. I'm probably going to duplicate some of what you said. This building is pointed out, is 41 feet, but plus 4 feet to the elevator tower. Don't get that. This is 11 feet higher, taller than is found in the Loyola Corner specific plan. And 2 stories in the Loyola Corner specific plan. This building is also 11 feet taller than the building under construction a block away, which is 2 stories. It's been under construction, as the lady said earlier, for quite a while. The Loyola plan, specific plan, calls for incorporating familiar architectural elements, maintain the existing small pedestrian scale of the area, small scale buildings to emphasize the human scale. This building does not meet the requirements as noted in the specific plan. Now, I'm saying this to the applicant. The commissioners know this. Obviously, the applicant didn't read the guidelines. I just wonder what the applicant, the builder, and I'm sorry if I'm going to offend him, but you offended everybody in the community with this building. You proposed a building 41 feet or 45 feet tall next to a 1-story bungalow, cute little bungalow that's been there for 50 years. And this building is going to completely shadow that building. That'd be bad enough. But then you put 6 decks that face that building. 2 of the decks will face the front yard. 2 of the decks will face the rear yard. So those people, that family, is not going to have any privacy at all. Not only not any privacy, not going to have any light. You've also put a electrical box at the corner of the property right near the front. Why you're putting that near the front of the single family house, I don't know what kind of noise it's going to generate, but it's not going to be good. This building with the height is also going to shadow the property behind it that's on Dolores. Okay, it's going to be huge. They're going to have less light. And I'm quickly looking at my notes here. I've got so many. We'll try and make it somewhat short, Shelley, but I think that the applicant really needs to know that this is a project should go back to the drawing board and tear your script, tear these pages down and start anew. You proposed, you're within 1.5 feet of the property line for the side house on Lorraine. So those cars that are going to be parked in the semi carport are going to have headlights shining onto the little bit of privacy that these people have. There'll be doors opening and closing. There'll be noise. And it doesn't make sense. So you not only have built this monster that overlooks this nice house, and then you've done this. The house across the street on Lorraine, that's front yard faces this building, will now be impacted by the cars coming in and out at night of the carport. By the way, sorry, Shelley, please bear with me. I have no idea when I have seen a new building built since the 1950s, 60s that had carport parking. Huh? Everybody goes underground or they have concealed garage. Why would you build a semi-attractive building like this and have open carport parking? It does not make sense. You do not, are you going to have, if it's permitted, and it won't be by me, will there be car chargers? The city council's directed at the last meeting, one of the goals is to have most of the cars in the city have be electric by 2025 or something. What about the bike lockers? You haven't told us how many. Are they going to have chargers? Or are we just going to assume that they're going to all be all regular old bikes? You've got 8 2-bedroom units. Most of these are going to have 2 cars, and yet you only have one. You've got, 16 parking places. You're not going to have adequate parking for the extra cars for the families that have, most people, you have 2 bedrooms, you're going to have at least 2 cars, probably 1 bedroom, 2. Where are these people going to park? Has the applicant driven down the street and seen how narrow Lorraine is? Have they looked at how narrow Dolores is? And there's cars parked in front of these streets. There's no curbs, gutters, or sidewalks. There's going to be, where are they going to park? In the shopping center behind the grocery stores or the deli and the bike shop? That's parking for those folks. Are they going to park in the cross street in the post office? The building needs to be totally designed, start from scratch, build underground parking. Why you're putting the commercial in, I don't know. It just amazes me that you've given no consideration at all to the properties that are adjacent to it, next door, behind, and across the street, let alone what your proposed project is doing in terms of the traffic going up and down these narrow streets. I have a lot more, but I'll let it go for here. Thank you,
Great.
Shelley.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Roche. Well, I'm not going to pile on. I actually am in agreement with many of the comments that my fellow commissioners had made. And there's a couple of things I just wanted to talk about. One is, when you look at this property and you recognize that this is actually, I want to call it kind of the gateway on the south side of Los Altos, the gateway into town in a very special zone, Loyola Corners, which we spent many, many years developing the specific plan for. You have to be sensitive to that. And the comment that the architect made about not revising the plan based on the neighborhood meetings, I have to agree with Commissioner Steinle. You've taken up an hour of our time tonight, haven't considered any of the letters that the neighbors have written or any of the objective standards or the sensitivities to the neighborhood. And we don't like to see that. We all spend a lot of time studying this. So when you get input, you need to come back with the specific revisions to that input. I understand that down the line, you're going to be, when you come in, you will probably be asking for some density, the density bonus under some of the new ordinances. But I would just caution you to be very careful about applying for those with the comments that you've received back from the neighbors and from the commission. So be very thoughtful in coming back. But I think one important point too, I know it's been made, but I'll reiterate, is that having a 0 lot line on Miramonte is just not a smart thing to do. When you look at the other first floor commercial buildings that we've been approving around town, every building has a setback of some sort of habitat, some planting, some setbacks, some planters. So please be mindful of that too along Miramonte. And I agree with the rest of the statements about height and bulk and mass, and I'm not going to pile on. So that's the feedback to the applicant and the architect from the commission. I don't, Planner Golden, is there anything else that we need to do before we adjourn the special study session?
There is not.
Okay, we are running a little bit late for the 7 o'clock Planning Commission meeting. I would ask that we take a 5-minute break before.
Shelley, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I was muted, and I there is one thing I did want to bring up for staff before we do. They gave us a copy of 14.40, the standards, and what I noticed when I was reading that is apparently that was copied from the CT and not the CN district, because it talks about El Camino Real. It may be an error that was introduced into this text. Things got copied and pasted funny. I just want somebody to go and look at that and make sure things were done right, because if we're going to insist that people follow the rules, we got to get the right rules in. And so I just want staff to look at that and make sure that that is in fact the correct one, because as I read it, it's not. So we want to make sure we are publishing the correct rules in the correct place.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
I see a hand up, but it looks like a hand from the public, and we had already closed public comments. So I'd like to let that member of the public know that we had already closed public comments. So we're not taking any more public comment. We are essentially closing this study session, and we're going to go into our regular Planning Commission meeting. Let's see, Jolie, our city attorney, can we take a 5-minute break before we reopen the session, regular session?
Yes, you can. And then there's a couple of those housekeeping items that you're
Sure.
aware Okay.
Sure.
Yes, that's
So
fine.
let's reconvene at 7:18. So members of the public, if you're on 5 minutes, 7:18, we'll be coming right back on.
And please mute yourself while you're taking your break. Thank you.
Streets is those are the areas that connect the various parts of the city. So along the Foothill Expressway, that would add about 9,300 linear or 360 linear feet of roadway right of way. So what this adds is a total of about 65,000 linear feet of roadway. And so it's tempting, and I to just divide that by 1,000 and say, well, that's how many facilities there could be, but that is how many might be permitted if they at 1,000 feet, and how would that change? But that is what would essentially change is 65,000 additional linear feet of roadways, and then adding about 24 parcels by reducing the separation between facilities from 1,500 feet to 1,000 feet. And that's primarily up in the northeast corner of the city, and the reduction of from 1,500 feet from the existing facility at Distal Drive to 1,000 feet.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
All right, thank you. Eric or Richard, any questions for our staff and our subject matter experts?
I'm
Richard?
well, I'm just greatly concerned that we do this once, we do it right. And the legal costs, we're not in a position where we can, our budget, prevent any more lawsuits. And I don't know what the way to structure the resolution is, whether we should go 1, 2, or 3, or go A, B, or C, but I have to rely on these experts to lead us down the path correctly where we don't get waylaid. My comment, thank you.
And if I could respond to that, you do also have the option of requesting that we put all 3 options in front of the city council.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I was going to ask you that. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we're getting a lot of feedback, so everybody should mute if you're not talking.
Sounds better. That's a point I was thinking about. Can we send this forward with 3 options and have the city council weigh in on this? I'm getting a lot of feedback. Apologies. Eric, did you have some comments, questions?
No, I think everything I had got covered, so
okay.
I think we'll let them go.
Well, so we're at the point where we have to make a motion to either move it forward per the red line text that we received, or approve it, not approve it, not approve it, continue it, or approve it with the 3 options that Mr. Zola gave us. I'm seeing us come to that juncture. Jolie, do you see the same thing?
Yes, that would be your options tonight, but you do need to make a motion on the resolution on the mitigated neg deck, and then a motion on the ordinance recommending, and then the design guidelines. So you do have 3 options, and I'll defer to Mr. Zola if there's anything else you need to take, but those are your 3 actions.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll take
three
the easy
actions.
one.
There's 3 actions: CEQA resolution,
Right.
And then the ordinance with or without revisions, and the resolution with or without the annotated revisions, plus the effective date.
Okay.
I'll
Well-
take the easy one, which is to move that we approve the let me get this right, the CEQA resolution, because that's pretty much just a straightforward ministerial action. So I'll take that easy one, and I'll make that motion if somebody would like to second it.
I'll second it.
Go ahead, Ronit. Can Commissioner Bodnar will second it.
And if I could, before you take the action, I think, Jolie, should be to recommend that the city council adopt that resolution.
Right.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I also wanted to make a housekeeping clarification. Chair, did you close the public hearing? I believe that you did.
I did.
Okay.
I
Just
did.
checking. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I think
So
it's
we have
time
a
for-
motion to move to city council, a motion to adopt the CEQA ordinance, take it forward to city council. And we have a second. So Steve, would you like to do roll call, please?
I can. Give me 1 sec here. Commissioner Roche,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodnar,
Yes.
Commissioner Steinle,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mensinger,
Yes.
and Chair Doran.
Yes.
That approves with a vote of 6-0 and 1 absent.
Great. Next, we have to move the ordinance forward to city council with or without the comments, the red line comments, and any additions that we would like to make to this, any alternatives. Does anybody have a motion to make for this?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have a question here. So if we wanted to suggest that the 3 options that were discussed tonight also go to council, is this the motion we do it, or do we do it at a different motion?
I believe this would be the motion since the options are in the ordinance.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure.
Yes, and it's in the ordinance. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I move to move forward, to move the ordinance forward to city council with the red line comments that we received, and with the 3 options which Mr. Zola articulated to us. And I don't know if I need to repeat them back to move this forward. Jolie, do I need to repeat them back, or can Mr. Zola detail them?
I would have Mr. Zola detail them so the motion is clear. Yes.
All right. And so we now have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second for that?
I will
Second.
courageously second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Steinle. We have a second for that. Okay. The roll
right.
call again?
Commissioner Roche,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodnar,
Yes.
Commissioner Steinle,
Yes. Courageously.
Commissioner Ahi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mensinger,
Yes.
and Chair Doran.
Yes, thank you.
That passes 6 with 1 absent.
Yeah. Now, finally, we have a resolution that needs to move forward to the city council that will put the dates in sync with each other of the ordinance and the, excuse me, Mr. Zoll, would you articulate that again? The dates will sync on the ordinance and the.
Yes, the resolution would become effective at the effective date of the ordinance.
The effective date of the ordinance.
Right, and your motion should also specify whether, same as you did for the ordinance, whether the revisions includes the red line revisions from the annotated version.
Sure.
And just to make clear, you're recommending city council approval of these things.
Correct.
Yes. Oh, that's him. Yes. Would anybody like to make that motion, or will I courageously repeat that? All right, I will
Sorry,
move.
can you repeat that one more time, just so I'm noting it correctly?
Mr. Zola, sure.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I saw everybody hesitate. I thought, okay, yeah, you would the recommendation would be that the city council adopt the resolution with the revisions in the annotated version and a modification of the effective date of the ordinance to correspond to the effective date of the resolution to correspond to the effective date of the ordinance.
And that effectively is my motion. Well
I guess
said.
I'll effectively second it. Ronnie can second it if she wants. That's fine.
I think it was Commissioner Menzinger
Oh, I'm
second
sorry,
that.
Susan.
We have a
That was
second.
Susan.
Long one's a long name. Okay.
Okay, we have a second. All right, a roll call on that.
Commissioner Roche,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodner,
Yes.
Commissioner Steinle,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menzinger,
Yes.
and Chair Doran.
Yes, thank you. We have a 6-0. And I would also like to thank the members of the public for speaking up, in support and non-support and coming on with their comments. We want you to know that we really appreciate your input. So thank you for doing that. Your voices are heard. All right. Well, we are at that time of our meeting where we are going to move on to commissioners. Oh, I'm sorry. We have number 6, the housing element update tonight.
Yes.
And I see our interim planning director, Laura Simpson, just came on. Do you have an update to the housing element tonight?
Yes, I just wanted to give a brief update, just an oral report on where we are. We have worked hard through the last few months, through the end of last year and the last 2 months, to kind of to do outreach and education to the public around the housing element. We held a community workshop on January 13th, which was attended by over 50 households. And then we had our second workshop recently on March 1st with over 150 households attending. In the second workshop, we released information about opportunity sites that we see could be placed within the housing element. And I'm going to just give a brief update. And then I'd like to show you the website that we have, because there's quite a bit of information posted on the website. And I just want to share it with the public and with commissioners so that people know where to find things. We have, if I can share my screen for a moment, I'd like to show people if this works. I'm going to try it. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see if it's, oh, I think somebody might need to allow me to share. I don't know if Steve.
I know Lloyd just shared his, so you should be able to. Make sure you select the screen that you want to share, and then you have to hit the share button again.
There,
on that window.
okay, I will try that again.
There, it's starting up.
Okay. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to point out where some things are on here that will people can take a look. This is under losaltoshousing.org, and we've placed on here the site maps that indicate where the where the opportunity sites are. And they have a little bit more detail. Originally, they were in a PowerPoint format, and we've added some street names. So at this point, I'm just sharing, to show you that these are on here. The colors correspond with the density. So the green corresponds with where potentially above market housing might be placed. Moderate is a yellow color, and blue is low income, which is 30 dwelling units per acre or more. So I just wanted to indicate where you can find those maps. I also wanted to mention that the workshop 2, community workshop 2, if you were not able to attend it, we have all of the information from that workshop here. We have a video, we have the presentation that was given, and a meeting summary with notes that people provided, feedback that people provided at that meeting. So there are a lot of ways to get involved, but there is a form that you can fill out through the website. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can provide direct comments or questions through the website. And I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of this. We also have the link to calendar here that shows you upcoming events. So next Tuesday, we have at the City Council meeting on March 22nd, we will be doing a presentation with our consultant, LWC, and we'll be going through where we are to date and how we did the analysis, how the analysis was done to come up with the sites that we have on our maps at this point. And then we will be asking the council for feedback on certain policy questions. And from there, we will be moving ahead once they provide feedback on policy questions such as potential zoning changes in the office administrative zoning district, the CT district, and others. When we receive that from council, we will go back and possibly change the numbers that we've come up with. We may take out some sites, we may add some sites in. And then the next step will be that the public draft of the housing element will be coming out towards the end of April. So once that comes out, people will have a 30-day public comment period. So anyone can write in comments. And then also during that 30-day period, we'd like to have a joint study session with the Planning Commission and the City Council. And we're trying for May 24th for a joint meeting. So you will have seen the admin draft, and then you can provide comments, you can ask questions, and the consultant will be there, and myself and other staff to answer questions. And we'll probably have even another additional meeting beyond the May 24th meeting. And at that point, we'll take feedback and we'll revise it, and then we will send it to the state. So the state will have a 90-day review period, and then it will come back and we will make any changes that the state requires and bring it back to the Planning Commission and Council. So that's kind of where we are in the process. And I just wanted to let folks know that we have a lot of information on the website from all the past meetings, and it's pretty easy to navigate to find the upcoming events as well. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Maris.
I had a question. So I actually attended the site walk for the Los Altos Affordable Housing group, and I noticed that a lot of the sites that are selected, there's just some issues underlying that need to probably be kind of listed, whether it's parking easements, whether it's just the way that sites are situated next to one another. I think one site has a residential component that's underlying. I'm just curious if there is any discussion about an overlay map of these kind of sites that could be looked at, maybe on Tuesday with the City Council. But is there any discussion regarding that? If maybe certain sites could be kind of more analyzed?
Well, we are definitely analyzing. HCD requires us to take a very close look at each site. So we're looking at whether there are constraints, whether they're geographic or environmental or other constraints on each site. So we continue to do that, and we are receiving feedback from various property owners or developers on sites, and we're continuing to update that within our matrix of sites. So it is required, and we may end up taking out some sites if we find that they're just there are too many constraints, or We're not required by the state to have a definite development plan for a site. We don't have to have a developer or a property owner saying, yes, we will develop this. That's not required. But we, wherever we can, if we can say that we've heard from developers and they're interested, we will put that in, and that does strengthen it. That strengthens the case, and HCD will look for that if we can provide it. But after council weighs in next week, we expect that we will come back within the public draft housing element, which will be much more detailed, and then you'll be able to see all those comments and the rigorous review that's been going into
Okay.
it. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for interim planning director? Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, are there any commissioners' reports?
Chair Duran.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because it's on our agenda as an item, I would open it up just for public comment to take that. And I do see a hand raised, so I believe there's probably at least one. But if you want to open it up, and then we can determine how many people might be there, and then you can decide on an appropriate time.
Thank you. Yes, let's open this up for public comment. If you do have a comment, please raise your hand so Steve Golden can call on you. How many hands do you see, Steve?
Right now I see 2.
Okay. Okay.
And how much time would you like to give?
3 minutes.
Okay. Go find my next clock here. Okay. That. And now I see a third hand, but we'll keep it at 3 minutes. So the first commenter is Ann Paulson, followed by Mircha. Ann, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me under this new system?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Yes, good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Ann Paulson, and I was one of the people who did the site walk. And I'd like to comment on the special expertise of the Planning Commission and one role the Planning Commission could play to find.
We're having a lot of feedback. It's very difficult to hear you.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I just turned off Mircha. I just muted him because it sounded like it was coming from him. But Ann, go ahead.
Okay, yes, I was hearing the feedback as well. Yeah, I'd like to comment on the special expertise of the Planning Commission and one role the Planning Commission could play in refining our site inventory. The preliminary site inventory that was presented at the meeting was represented as sites that could produce housing without any rezoning and without a density bonus. So it would be helpful if you could look at some of these sites and evaluate whether it would be possible to design buildings under these constraints, under the present zoning, that the city would accept on those sites. For example, Lucky's and Rancho are listed as low-income sites. That means 30 dwelling units per acre without a density bonus. Both of these sites have a 3-story maximum, first floor commercial, and they're restricted to 0.35 floor area ratios. So is it even possible to get 30 dwelling units per acre with that floor area ratio? It seems impossible. And another example is the sites on Main Street and State Street. They're really small. The residential uses are conditional, so you could turn them down. So what I'm wondering is, what residential building would you accept? Because the parking issues seem to be for those tiny sites where you can't put any parking, you can't put the parking garage, the entrance in the front. It seems very difficult to impossible to even design any building that you guys would accept, which might explain why nobody has tried to do it. So if you can't design the building, then the site shouldn't be on the site inventory. And if there's no market feasible way to design it, then the site also shouldn't be on the site inventory. We need to make sure the site inventory doesn't have sites that are impossible. And the Planning Commission is in a uniquely good position to be involved in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. The next person I have is Mircea. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, my name is Mircea Vasquez, and I was also part of the group that toured El Camino on Saturday. I was invited. I think it was a very good discussion and walk with the neighbors and city council members and planning commissioner Ahi. I have the same comment. The current map presented shows 2 properties located at 4926 and 4940 El Camino Real that are potential sites for development. Those are not sites for development because as I send a few emails to the city, that entire business area, it's actually restricted to parking sharing agreements for about 5-6 properties. So again, they have to be taken out. Contact the owners. They know exactly that what can be developed and not developed there. And I think it's misleading if we keep putting those things there without actually knowing that they can be developed. 1, 2, the owners have interest to be developed, because otherwise, if we just pop those properties in there and consider that we're going to get units out of those sites, it's just not going to happen. We'll never make up the numbers. We'll never get to the RENA numbers, and it's just not realistic. So it needs to move from fiction to reality, and pretty fast, because HCD is going to look at this and is going to say, we don't know what we're doing. So that's pretty much my comment. So look forward to take this to the city council and see what the comments are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker I have is Roberta. You've got 3 minutes.
Hi, it's Roberta. Can you hear me?
Yes, again.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So I just, this is just for the, the general public. I would strongly recommend that you do get a hold of Laura Simpson and set up a small group meeting with her. That way, the residents and people who have questions, have more than 2 minutes to ask the questions and have it answered. She's been putting a lot of work into this, and I think they're going to keep updating their website. So I would just, participate. If you live near Loyola Corners, participate. If you live in North Los Altos, please participate. Because your comments are, number 1, required by HCD, but number 2, the city really does care about your questions and your comments. So I'm just encouraging everybody to get a hold of Laura Simpson and, schedule your neighborhood meeting with her. Thank you.
Thanks, Roberta. Our next speaker or public commenter is Janine Valadez. Janine, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm a park commissioner, but I'm speaking as a resident. I want to echo, I was on the walk as well, and it was the first time, even though I live right around the corner from that area, that I really took a look at the various existing buildings and lots in terms of parcels rather than just, oh, there's Chef Shoes. And it was extremely revealing listening to various people in the know talk about the situation on the ground. And then stepping back and looking at the entire housing element, and I understand staff is putting a tremendous amount of work into this instrument. I think the longer, every day that we go by that the powers that be are not changing the zoning in our city in various ways, in various creative ways, to incentivize developers and to incentivize building, whether it's lot aggregation or talking to owners to find out what it would take for them to develop, dealing with real things such as the parking agreements and the fact that certain parcel owners may have a vision for their particular parcel that has no relationship to the parcels around them. Real discussions have to happen, but most importantly, it's about zoning. there's nothing preventing the planning commission and the city council and the staff in general as a collective from upzoning almost, all of the commercial areas, all of the office areas, all of the thoroughfare areas to mixed use. It doesn't mean that you have to build that way, but it's important to have the potential for increasing the density of our city in as gentle ways as it can, but still make our numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers, Steve?
I don't see any other hands raised. Let me go. I just saw one maybe pop up, but no. Let me go to anybody that I see calling in that I can unmute.
I have my hand raised. Steve?
Oh, I'm
Sue
sorry.
Russell? Did you not see me?
No, sorry, I don't. You can speak now. I don't see your hand raised,
Okay.
but
Okay,
yeah, sorry
sorry, it
about
says raised hand. Sorry. Sue Russell, I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters. I was on the walking tour also, and I won't repeat the comments made by others, but I think for us, the most important thing is that there needs to be adequate information out as soon as possible for community feedback. I realize this is a lot of effort, but there really needs to be a list of the specific sites in the site inventory rather than just these blocks on the map with street addresses, including the size of the parcel, APN numbers, existing use, and the current zoning, and the estimated number of net new units rather than lumping a whole bunch of net new units that are expected to be gotten from a general area. In addition, we support the idea of having additional council and planning commission meetings to give direction on programs and policies that the housing element must provide. So far, we haven't seen the programs and policies issue really be agendized. We know this is a lot of work, but programs and policies are a key component of the housing element along with the site inventory. For example, the downtown parking plazas are shown as possible housing sites, but unless there is a program to reload the parking, these sites have little development potential. We would like to see these proposed early so that everyone can comment on the possible policies such as perhaps reduced parking requirements, revision of the current inclusionary ordinance. These have been mentioned as possibly being studied as part of the housing element. The review of the constraints, especially as has been identified by both market rate and nonprofit developers in small stakeholder meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Was that just popped up? I think that's Susan's iPad. So
Okay.
I don't see any other hands
Okay.
raised at this time.
Great. Then we'll close the public comment. And if do we have any comments from the commissioners?
I definitely would like to also see, as the lady just mentioned, a list of the properties, specific properties, not just a pool on the street or a little blurb on the map. An address is fine with me, and APN is fine with me, so that I can visualize and go look at those on my own and do my necessary due diligence. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I do have a question. Do we acknowledge these sites to the property owners and tell them that we're putting these sites into our preliminary discussion maps?
We have reached out to, we've notified all residents, and we've notified people in as many ways as we can, property, downtown property owners groups and other groups, and reached out directly to some owners as well. So, they're not required to tell us what their plans are, but we have been very open and transparent with the information, and some have come forward and told us that they're interested in developing. So yes,
Great.
we are taking those comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the report. Thank you for the questions. All right, we can move on now to any commissioners' reports. Anybody have a report on a meeting they attended? Oh, seeing none, Any potential agenda items for future agendas?
Yeah, I have something that I've been thinking about. Since you're busy loading up the summer when we don't expect not to have any work, and you're looking want to look at some things. One of the things I think we need to start thinking about is, and I'm going to mention the one this evening, for example, Carrie Lai raised the issue of a location specialist. He called it a location analyst expert with respect to the small cell nodes, and one of my concerns with this is while the legislation that is moving forward establishes sort of the rules of the road, my concern is how do we actually enforce it? What do we do? Is staff going to have the resources necessary to do what we now expect to be done? And one of the ways might be to have, in the same way that we use an architectural consultant along First Street, for example, with some of the plans, do a similar thing where we have somebody that we can send this to for review. The other thing that concerns me is that if we have a project that has a density bonus and there's some question about the economic viability of it, we have an economic consultant that we can send it to. As Jolie has pointed out, the only way the city can say no to something is if we have evidence that in fact they do not have to develop something, as they say, economically. And we don't have that because there's nobody on staff to do it, obviously. And by the time it comes to us, it's too late. So I'd like to talk about the possibility of that sort of a thing. We don't have enough staff. We don't have the specialists on staff, but I'd like to have some discussion about what that might involve for these things that increasingly we are obliged to contend with these issues because the state is giving us things to worry about. It's not something we're prepared to do. It's not something we can do. It's not something staff can do. So we want to figure out if there's something we want to recommend to the council by way of policy and setting up a way of managing these issues. So that is something I'd like to see when we have some time to talk about it.
I have a comment on that. As you know, at the last meeting, I sort of brought that up. And I think there's another way to approach it. Rather than perhaps have the city hire the expertise, perhaps require the developers to provide some analysis of when they make a blanket statement that we need this for economic viability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
then we have a starting point to take a look at and say, does this make sense? Or does this not make sense?
Yeah,
but I'd rather put, frankly, the onus on them and the expense on them than on the city. So I think it's another way to look at perhaps doing it.
No, that's a good point. And a lot of cities do that. They put the onus on the developer to spend that money.
And, you know, since we don't tend to have parking fees and other things, I think, you know, we have some places that we can make it easier for the city to do these things.
Well, and what I was going to propose is we figure out a way to make them pay for it in any event. You know, I mean, this is something that we could expect them to do if it comes up, and it's just another, you know, hoop for them to jump through, if you will. But it gives us information that we would need to be able to carry out our responsibilities. And there are a number of areas in which this now seems to be coming up. So I'd like to be able to talk about how we could do this. And I do like the idea of putting the onus on the developers, of course. And not make a matter of the city budget, but we have to have a way of doing that. And so I'd like to talk about all of those possibilities. But yes,
so no,
yeah, and as it relates to density bonus issues, and I think that's what you're addressing with like the financial feasibility. I'm pretty sure that state law says that it's the city's burden to do the analysis. So to show that it's not financially, you know, it's not offset. Whatever they're asking for is not offsetting to the inclusion of the income restricted units.
That's right.
But yeah, so.
But we don't have mechanism for doing that is my point. I mean, that's by the time it comes to this commission, we're not able to do that, and we especially if it's under 330, we don't have the option of you know continuing hearings and that sort of thing. So I mean, it's one more thing that would have to happen before it comes to us, but it would be something that would be an option. So
Yeah, and I think they're bringing up some issues that are crossing over policy and administrative functions. But they're good. They're definitely things that have to be addressed. I was particularly interested in the answer from Commissioner Bodner's question about, well, how many applications might we see for the wireless, the small cell nodes? Because yes, if this is coming back to the planning division, it will be something. And I'm only guessing that there's a shot clock, or there. I know the federal law, there is a shot clock on these applications. So it's just yet another mandate of once these applications come in, then somebody has to reply or respond and process. So
It's right. It's like CEQA, yeah.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there are more and more of these, and so I think we need to start talking about how we handle this, because, you know, all you need is one more thing to worry about.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, not to prolong this discussion, but I think on the Verizon or AT&T response was the application fees that the federal I don't know, legislature adopted, which I don't know, they were in the hundreds of dollars, and maybe it's a lot of money in different parts of the country, but not so much when you're paying staff in Silicon Valley in California. So, but that's the limit. If the Fed said, then it's the limit. So,
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, hearing and Steve, go
And
ahead.
then just real quick, as far as meetings that are coming up, and I'll try to do my best to send out a better calendar to make sure that everybody knows when these meetings are coming. And then I think myself and on the Design Review Commission side, as the city either continues or not with the virtual meetings, send you Outlook invites to your city accounts. But with regards to upcoming meetings, there is a scheduled joint study session with the Design Review Commission. It's scheduled for April 6th, which is a Wednesday night. It'll start at 6 o'clock. It might be a 60-minute or a 90-minute session. We haven't figured that out yet. But that will discuss the SB 9 resolution that the city council adopted at the end of the year and directed the commissions to meet and address any issues with implementing SB 9, and if there needs to be any updates to the objective design standards that the city adopted, that will be discussed that night. Not to foreshadow, but we had talked about it internally about whether if that discussion needs to continue, whether I think where we're positioning that is to recommend a subcommittee be joined, either a joint subcommittee or individual subcommittees of the commissions, so that addressing the SB 9 can be a little bit more dynamic with a smaller group. We don't have the scheduling difficulties or conflicts and all that type of stuff. So it might be an opportunity to be on a subcommittee to further the goals of the city with SB 9 objective standards. Then April 7th, you'll have a regular meeting. I don't have anything listed so far in a study session, so it would start at 7 o'clock. You have at least one item, the continued item 4350 El Camino Real, and that's the only item on that agenda. And let me just look really quick on the latter meeting. Oh, sorry. And the meeting on April 21st has been canceled by the city administration. It is a holiday for some folks, so they canceled that meeting. And then that will bring us into May, which I don't have any agenda items yet. You did hear from Director Simpson that there'll be a request of a joint meeting with the City Council on May 24th. I've been told a fairly early start time of maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and have maybe a 90-minute session. So we'll be looking for availability for May 24th, and I'll send out an email regarding that. And it's likely that as we move into the later spring and summer, that the housing element will definitely be a big item on your plate to take a look at and consider, and make recommendations to City Council.
Great, thank you. Well, I propose an adjournment, a marathon session from 6 o'clock to 9:38 tonight. I'm sure for you veterans, we've had longer, but good meeting. Thank you, everyone. Do I have a second to the adjournment?
Courageous
second.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Appreciate
wish
it.
you all a happy St. Patrick's
Thank
Day.
you, Steve. Thank
Yeah,
you.
happy Quorum too. Yeah, thank you. See ya. Bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.